Welcome to another episode of the Pocket English Podcast, where we take the big, scary parts of living and working in English and shrink them down into something you can carry with you. Today, we are tackling a situation that makes even the most confident B1 learners feel a little bit like a child again. We are going to the doctor. I'm here with my co-host today, and we're going to talk about why that feeling of losing your words at the clinic is so common, and more importantly, how to fix it.
You're absolutely right about that feeling. I've lived in English-speaking environments for a while, but the second I walk into that small white room and the doctor looks at me over their glasses and says, "So, what seems to be the problem?" my brain just goes blank. I usually end up pointing at my stomach or my head and saying, "It hurts," or "It's bad." And then I see the doctor's face. They look confused, or worse, they look like they're in a hurry, and I feel like I'm not getting my point across. It's frustrating because I'm an adult. But in that moment, I don't have the adult words to describe my own body.
That is exactly what we call the dignity gap. You have the thoughts of a grown-up, but the vocabulary of a 5-year-old. When you say it hurts, the doctor has 1,000 possibilities in their head. Is it a broken bone? Is it a muscle cramp? Is it an infection? Today, we are going to bridge that gap. We are going to give you a medical pocket toolkit so that the next time you sit in that chair, you can speak with precision. And before we dive into our first set of power words, if you find these real-life lessons helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. It really helps us stay in your pocket every week, so you can keep growing your confidence in these high-stakes situations.
I definitely need those power words. Let's start with the pain itself. If I can't just say it hurts or it's bad, what are the alternatives? I know the word ache, like headache or stomach ache, but that feels a bit general too.
You're right. An ache is usually a long, continuous pain that isn't necessarily sharp, but it's always there. But to really help a doctor, we need to talk about the quality of the pain. Let's start with two opposites, sharp and dull. A sharp pain is like a needle or a knife. It's sudden, it's intense, and it usually makes you jump or gasp. You might say, "I feel a sharp pain in my lower back whenever I lean over." On the other hand, a dull pain is the opposite. It's not intense, but it's heavy. It's like a background noise that won't go away. You could say, "It's just a dull ache in my shoulder, but it's making it hard to concentrate." Try saying those two sentences out loud right now while you're walking or driving. "I have a sharp pain," or "It's a dull ache."
That's a huge difference already. Sharp and dull. I can imagine the doctor's reaction being very different for those two. What about that feeling when you can almost feel your heartbeat inside the pain, like in your head during a migraine or in a finger if you hit it with a hammer?
That is a classic B1 word that everyone should know, throbbing, throbbing. A throbbing pain follows the rhythm of your heart. It pulses. It's very common for headaches or for an area that is swollen and red. You would tell the doctor, "I have a throbbing headache on the left side of my head." It feels much more professional than saying, "My head is jumping." Another one that is very useful for skin issues or even a sore throat is stinging. Think about a bee sting. It's a sharp, burning sensation on the surface. If you have a bad sunburn or if you accidentally got some cleaning chemicals on your hand, you would say it's a stinging sensation.
Throbbing and stinging. I'm adding those to my mental list. I think the key here is that these words describe the feeling so well that the doctor doesn't have to ask 5 follow-up questions. They already know where to start looking. But what about the timing? I often find that when I'm at the doctor, the pain isn't actually there at that moment, which makes it even harder to describe.
That is such a common problem. The pain disappears the moment you enter the clinic. This is where our frequency formula comes in. Instead of just saying "it happens sometimes," which is very vague, try using the phrase "it comes and goes." This tells the doctor that there are periods of time where you feel completely fine, and then the symptoms return. You could say, "The pain in my knee comes and goes throughout the day." If the pain is triggered by an action, we use the verb flare-up. A flare-up is a sudden worsening of a permanent condition. For example, my asthma usually flares up in the spring, or my back pain flares up after I've been sitting at my desk for too long.
I love that. It flares up. It sounds so much more natural than saying it becomes bad again. And what if the pain is always there, but it just gets worse at certain times?
Then you want to use the word aggravate. To aggravate something means to make a bad situation even worse. You can say, "Exercise seems to aggravate the pain," or "Cold weather aggravates my joints." On the other side of the scale, if the pain is getting better, you don't just say it's going away. You can say the symptoms are subsiding, subsiding. It's a slightly more formal word, but it shows the doctor that you are observing your body carefully. It's subsiding or it's aggravating. These are the words of an adult who is in control of their health narrative. Try to think of one small ache you've had recently and practice saying, it comes and goes, or it flares up when I'm stressed.
That actually leads me to the next big topic. A lot of us who are in that 25 to 40 age range aren't always going to the doctor for a broken leg or a cough. Often it's about feeling generally unwell. I hear people say I'm sick all the time, but that could mean anything from a cold to a major illness. How do we talk about that low energy, stressed out feeling that comes from working too much?
This is where we need to move away from I am sick and look at the burnout vocabulary. The most useful phrase for this is feeling run down. If you are run down, it means you have no energy left and your immune system is weak. You aren't necessarily stuck in bed with a fever, but you feel like you could get sick at any moment. You tell the doctor, I've been feeling really run down lately, and I can't seem to shake this tiredness. It's a very common way to describe the result of long-term stress.
Run down. That sounds exactly like how I feel after a big project at work. What about when you just can't focus? You know that feeling where your brain feels like it's full of cotton or fog?
We actually call that brain fog in informal English, but in a medical context, you might say, I'm struggling to focus, or I feel completely drained. Drained is a great word because it creates a visual of a battery that is at 0%. If you tell a doctor, I'm feeling drained and I'm having trouble sleeping, they immediately start thinking about things like iron levels, vitamin deficiencies, or burnout. It's a specific kind of tired. It's not the tired you feel after a workout, it's the tired you feel in your soul.
I've definitely been there. Drained, run down, and struggling to focus. These words really help distinguish between a physical illness and a state of exhaustion. But let's say the doctor listens to all of this, and then they start talking. Sometimes they use big words or they give instructions very quickly. I feel like I just nod and say okay because I don't want to look stupid. But then I leave the office and I realize I have no idea what I'm supposed to do next.
This is the most dangerous part of the visit. You must never leave that room with total clarity. Your health is more important than your ego. If the doctor says something you don't understand, don't just say, what? Instead, use this checklist of adult clarification questions. First, if they use a medical term, say, could you explain that in simpler terms? It's a very polite way to say you're using jargon I don't know. Second, always ask about the timeline. A great question is, when should I expect to see an improvement? This gives you a clear goal. If the doctor says 3 days and you still feel bad after 5, you know you need to call them back.
That's a great one. When should I expect to see an improvement? I usually just wait and hope. What about the medication? I'm always worried about side effects, but I never know how to ask.
Just ask it directly. Are there any common side effects I should be aware of? This shows the doctor you are responsible and want to be prepared. And finally, before you stand up to leave, use this phrase. What are the next steps if this doesn't clear up? This is your safety net. It means you have a plan B. You aren't just leaving and hoping for the best, you are leaving with a strategy. So to recap that checklist, explain in simpler terms, expect an improvement, side effects, and next steps.
I feel so much more empowered just hearing those. It turns the doctor's visit from an interrogation into a conversation between two adults. I think the takeaway for me today is that I don't need to know the name of every bone in my body. I just need to know how to describe my experience of living in my body.
Precisely. You are the world's leading expert on how you feel. The doctor is just the consultant. But to consult with them, you need these pocket-sized tools. We've covered a lot today. We talked about the pain palette, sharp, dull, throbbing, and stinging. We talked about the frequency formula. It comes and goes, it flares up, and it aggravates. We looked at the burnout vocabulary, feeling run down or drained. And we finished with your clarification checklist.
It's a lot to remember, but I think the best way to make it stick is to actually do something with it.
You're right. Here is your action step for today. I want you to open the Notes app on your phone right now. Create a new note and title it My Medical English. Type in just 3 of the words we practiced today that you think would be most useful for you. Maybe it's run down, throbbing, and flare up. Having them written in your own digital pocket means that if you ever do feel unwell, you don't have to rely on your stressed out brain to remember them. You just open your phone, and there they are.
That's so practical. I'm doing that right now. It's like having a little insurance policy for your English.
Exactly. And if you want to make sure you're prepared for other real-life situations, like handling a difficult conversation with a roommate or navigating a job interview, make sure you've subscribed to the Pocket English podcast. When you subscribe, you're telling yourself that your English growth is a priority, and we'll be here every week to give you the exact patterns and practice you need. Don't forget to hit that like button if you learned a new word today. It helps other learners like you find these lessons.
Thanks for walking us through this today. I actually feel less nervous about my next checkup already. It's amazing how much power a few specific words can give you.
That's the magic of English. You don't need a huge vocabulary. You just need the right one. Take these words, put them in your pocket, and use them when you need them. You've got this. We'll see you in the next episode. Keep listening, keep speaking, and let your English grow, one pocket-sized lesson at a time.